And to be honest, the lifestyle Egypt presented us was very, very good compared to what we were used to. One day I came back from school and very tired. Val sat me down, we were sitting around the dining table, and she just held my hand and told me, Raphael, baby number 4 is on the way. I'm pregnant.
So how did you take that news?
To be very honest with you, I've never thought of having 4 children. So from the onset, I was very, to be honest, I was okay. I wouldn't say I was shocked because that's going to be quite funny. I would say I probably wasn't prepared for it, and my natural reaction was, wow, what are we going to do? We've got plans already as a couple, as a family as well. We've had this year planned out. The last one at the time, Zion, our son, was quite young at the time, and we were just trying to focus more on him, to be honest, and we weren't really expecting to have another child, a 4th child. So Val being here, my witness, honestly, I did not take it as well as I should have, to be honest. Yeah.
So Valerie, how did you feel?
Wow. Like Raphael said, it was quite a shock. Obviously, our son wasn't even 1 year old yet, and we were just trying to really digest the news, really. For me, even with my previous pregnancy, there was some healing that needed to go on in the body, and I did have quite a complicated birth, and I've had previously a C-section with my firstborn, so it was only natural that my body was tired. For any pregnant woman, that their body is tired and they needed to relax, and having another baby now I was just thinking, oh gosh, yeah, there's another one on the way, and I hadn't quite healed yet from the previous pregnancy. Up until I gave birth to 26 weeks, I bled throughout the whole pregnancy. And it was a very, very difficult time for myself, for Raphael, even for the children to see me being really unwell in the home, and even for our family back home in England. It was really, really GP, and they actually said that there was no baby, but yet I had done the test and it was positive, and I was like, well, I've done a test, it was positive, and I said I need a second opinion, and he sent me off to another GP who actually did the tests. In between that, it was one day, and I went back home. We're Christians, and we came back home and we prayed and we laid hands that, look, there is life in this stomach, and we refuse anything else. We know the report. And we went back to the sonographer, and lo and behold, of course, our prayers prevailed through, and yeah, I heard the heartbeat. I was so excited, and yeah, that's how the pregnancy took off. Like I said, I bled quite a lot during the pregnancy, and the reason behind this, from what the GP was telling us, was you had a low-lying placenta. Now, I did previously have this with my other son, my child before this pregnancy, and the placenta went back up. It's something apparently that happens in pregnancies, and it naturally would go up as the baby gets bigger. It pushes back up into the womb. Unfortunately for me, it didn't happen, and I actually only found out what had happened to me when I gave birth, and what the actual condition told me at that point that I had placenta previa.
And had you heard of this before?
I've never heard of placenta previa. I've never even heard of low-lying placenta as such, only a touch of it in my previous pregnancy, but this was all very new to me, and I was very, very, very worried. Yeah.
So Valerie and Raphael, What advice would you give to parents going through this?
I would say the main thing is to make sure you're asking questions. As a father, especially, I mean, a lot of what happened regarding of course, the loss of our son. Initially, I felt quite guilty, and I was blaming myself a lot because of what had happened, and because of, should I say, immaturity in life. So there are certain things I feel like I probably should have delved into more, asked a bit more questions, and I didn't, because to some extent, you expect professionals to know what they're doing, and you expect them to basically have the necessary expertise and competence needed in any troubles or issues, especially regarding the issues we faced. Ask questions. Your knowledge may be small, but you still need to know, which is why we're doing this actually. We're just trying to create and do not shy away at all. Put matters in your hands, because with all that happened to us, we're looking back now, and basically we just feel like there are professionals who honestly failed us, and they could have done their job better. But I'm in a position now where I'm blaming myself because of things that I expected professionals to handle. And I am asking myself, why did I do this? I should have done this. I should have called the hospital. I should have spoken to the doctor. I should have gone in there when they did not want me to go in. I should have broken rules or whatever it is, because a life was at stake. And here is a case where what's happened has happened, and it was just basically, I feel guilty. And I wouldn't want any parent to be feeling how I feel now. You want to feel like you can support your family, you can be there and be a strong backbone as well for your family. So that's my advice to parents who are watching this.
And I would also like to add, from a mother's perspective, when you are, I mean, no one wants to be frightened when they're in their, pregnancy. I mean, pregnancy is supposed to naturally bring the family together, and we're all supposed to be happy. But at the same time, we do know that pregnancies do carry risks, and it's important to really analyze those risks as well. And I think if I had known any better, or any earlier, should I say, from professionals, that, for example, having a C-section, these are the type of risks that could be associated with your pregnancy further on in life as you get older, I probably would have better planned family planning.
Eid was going on. There was Eid celebrations during that time. And most of the times we tried to reach out to our doctor to actually come to our home and see Val, because these were difficult times where she was bleeding. But guess what? The doctor actually said, "This is Eid. I am not leaving my home, so you're going to have to deal with it yourself." So that sort of expectations you have for professionals, they sometimes they just, I suppose it's that empathy they're lacking, or they haven't got that sympathy, and perhaps call us spoiled coming from England, because we're probably used to what we believe is better healthcare structures back home. But some things are just inhumane, and some things are just not natural. As humans, we're supposed to be kind. We're supposed to put ourselves in the shoes of others who are going through pain. And I just found it very shocking to have people who were just not putting us first. And it was a trying time. We couldn't fly out, so we had to make that tough decision to stay in Egypt and go through everything that was happening in Egypt. And of course, it was a hard blow. We were dealt with a hard blow. There are so much that happened that we actually can't even discuss even now. Talking about how we had to bury him in Egypt, and staying here now, we're all back home now in London, and just that sudden thoughts. Every now and then you get those flashbacks, and you're reminded that your son is buried in Egypt, and your son is not here with you, and a piece of you is left in Egypt, and even that strain and stress to go through to actually bury him in Egypt wasn't easy at all. There wasn't any support at all. From the hospital, I had to get a cab and go to the ministry to get a death permit and bring it back to the hospital and carry my son's dead body, okay, in our arms, all right? And we got a cab, so this cab driver understands that there's a dead body in his car, and he's willing to carry on with the journey. Apparently, this is how the structure is over there, and they're used to it. But of course, to us, we weren't used to this sort of thing, all right? So we sat in the cab, holding him. Why? Because he wasn't even put in a coffin. He wasn't even put in a coffin. It was just, we got there, we showed them the death permit, and they said, right, here's your son. That was it. Here's your son. Actually, the first question was, where is the bag? I was like, what bag are you talking about? Where is the bag to put his body in? Honestly, this is the sort of conversation I had with them. They're asking me, where is the bag to put his body in? So eventually, Val's like, listen, I'm just going to carry him. And we went straight to the cemetery. We went to the cemetery. There are cemeteries for Christians. There are cemeteries for Muslims. And we're just glad we got somewhere to bury him. Of course, when we went there, we were not at all happy with what the cemetery looked like. But the thing is, if you say no to that cemetery, that means you're going to go back to the ministry and get them to write a new death permit, change the details of the cemetery. That's you still carrying your son, and going to search for the other cemetery they've written down. And if you're happy with it, then you can of course carry on. So we went there, paid whatever we had to pay, and he was buried. It was just quite sad, because that's not how we wanted it to end for him. And we're making this video because we believe he has a name, and he should be heard. He had a face, and his story must be told. We can't just treat him as anything else, as we believe the structure in Egypt wanted us to treat him. We want to treat him with some dignity.
The woman is bleeding from 9 weeks up until 26 weeks. This is not spot bleeding. This is heavy, full-on period type bleeding, where you're using multiple of pads, changing throughout the day. This is not normal. And I really was failed by the health professionals in Egypt. And even coming back to the UK, I was supposed to give birth here. I had all my antenatal classes here. And obviously due to the COVID-19 that hit, the pandemic, we weren't able to fly out. So it wasn't a matter of we were not doing the best we could. We did more than the best we could. We had so many flights booked out that were cancelled, and we just couldn't leave the country. We didn't have any issue of we're having another child. That really wasn't the issue. The issue really was, if we had known the huge risks involved, such as it's a matter of life or death, literally, would we have chosen to go down that route? We probably would have had a better way of looking at things. And it's really, really important, mums, to really, really listen to your body. And if you feel or you see something that you don't think is right with your body, please, 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 I just want to urge you so much to really speak to someone. And if that person is not listening, please find someone else and speak to that person and really try to get your point across, because this is a case where I didn't have that opportunity to do so. I was in the loop of what do we do next? Where do we go? And this is the case where I thought that the professionals should be able to navigate us to the right people at the right time and really intercede where they should. If we still were informed, we probably wouldn't have lost our son. And it's just something we have to live with, and we just want to share it with you all, and not to create any anything that would make you feel scared to get pregnant, but just be informed, read and research as much as possible. But all I want to say is listen to your body, speak to the right people, your midwives, your GPs, your consultants, especially if you've had. I just want to add that it's not just in Egypt, it can be anywhere also in the world. If you're going to leave from, let's say in our perspective, from England to go to any other country abroad and you have children, please do make sure you've done your research, as Raphael said, because in terms of medical care, you cannot joke with your life. You shouldn't even take it for granted at all. Like we already know, I could have lost my life out there. And, you know, of course, we've lost one of our own, but at least I still have life. But to all the mums who are pregnant, please be well informed, check out and watch out. We're also writing a book, a very detailed book with everything involved and the details of more what we went through, and everything else that we can't really share in the video will be in the book. We'll let you know obviously when that comes out, which will be very soon, so please stay tuned.